Well, Blue-Black Rescaminator won the most recent challenge, so rather than focus on that and be sad, let's make some 2020s, huh? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we're going to be doing some mono black nonsense, but a very different sort than the mono black aggro list that we saw earlier this week. This list is primarily trying to make 2020 creatures by removing all of the counters with Dark Depths. In mono black, you traditionally do this with either Thespian Stage to copy the land, or Vampire Hexmage to rip off all of the counters. But our Modern Horizons 3 set also gave us Mutated Cultist. Now notably, this is an on-cast trigger, so unlike something like Vampire Hexmage, this does not actually have to resolve to do the thing. When you cast this spell, remove all counters from up to one target permanent or opponent. The next spell you cast this turn costs one less to cast for each counter removed this way. So, when you are living the dream, you can do something like Mutated Cultist, remove all the counters from Dark Depths, and then cast a 4-mana Haymaker spell of some kind for free, giving your opponent multiple things that they have to worry about. This was a pre-banning deck list, and I am not going to change it because I don't think it at its core needs to change much. I'm going to make one swap though. I'm going to move these Sheoldred's Edicts from this main deck into the sideboard and move the Fatal Pushes into the main deck. The primary reason for this is I want to answer Psychic Frog as quickly as possible and as mana efficiently as possible, because it is just one of the most important cards in the entire format right now. And in theory, we have some amount of Game 1 graveyard coverage to help out with the unfair Entomb side of the deck anyway. The secondary benefit of doing something like this is it helps with our Dark Ritual. It gives us more opportunities to double spell off a Dark Ritual, which we can still do with Sheoldred's Edict and like a Thoughtseize, but this, I think, means that we'll ever so slightly more frequently end up double spelling off Dark Ritual. Our Dark Rituals are going to be really good, one of the best cards in the deck here. We are not a long-term mana deck. If you ignore Dark Depths, we have 17 lands plus 4 Dark Rituals for 21 mana sources. It's a touch more than that in reality because Urborg can turn the Dark Depths into black producing lands. So you can play like Depths into Urborg into one of these without missing a beat. Unless you get Wastelanded, in which case, oof, it is going to feel bad. I think I could probably mess around with the sideboard a little bit. Vexing Bubble was better in a Grief world, to be sure, but I think just having something that I can board in that stops counter spells on some of my critical cards when some things like maybe Thoughtseize or Fatal Push aren't necessarily going to be good, I still think that's perfectly fine. The slot that I think is the worst in the deck is the Singleton Karn the Great Creator. I think this is a very slow card, and the tutor board is 2 cards basically. It's Mycosynthellatus for the ability to end a game with a Karn, and it's the ability to tutor for Helm of Obedience. If there's not going to be, an extra 1 ring or something in the sideboard here to give Karn that nice mid-range stuff, I'm not in love with this slot. But I think I'm going to play it as is and see how it plays out. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our matches here, folks. If you need any cards, maybe from Modern Horizons 3, maybe from the upcoming Duskmorn set, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAmagic.com. Tales of Adventure treats their customers very, very well. They treat me well as well. I've used the word well too many times. Anyway, free shipping on all your online orders. If you're going to somewhere big like MagicCon Vegas, you can order online, pick it up on site, skip all the hassle and the lines, and promo code ThrabenU saves you 5% on your order as well. Let's battle. Okay, I don't think I have enough mana for this hand to be functional. I only have 1 castable card in this hand. We are going to mulligan this one, whereas this hand is perfectly fine. It's certainly a keep. On 2 lands, I probably just put back the 4-drop. despite the fact that that 4-drop is very, very good when we get things started. All right, we have probably been paired against a Psychic Frog deck. This change to Fatal Push hopefully will be looking pretty good. There is an Entomb. My opponent just reanimates the Archon immediately. The change to Fatal Push looks bad. Punished. So that Archon just exists forever. It kills me into attack steps, and I don't have outs to it. We did not open up on a Leyline. We are dead, and it is just too early in the game for something like Mutated Cultist to matter. So I will probably play extra removal, and I can think about these things as well. Karn's probably a weak link here. Slow, it's super dazable. Thoughtseize is not the best. Trying to 1-for-1 the opponent when Psychic Frog can just carry them through a game and undo all of the Thoughtseize damage that was ever done is a little rough. I can Vexing Bobble instead if I want to just try to shut off all of the various counterspells, but sometimes this disrupts combo lines. I may need to fear opposing Orcish Bowmasters. The lists are new and still in flux, so not 100% sure on that yet. Let's go up Ooh, missed an Edict? I didn't drag an Edict in. We'll play one Miser's Vexing Bobble, I think. Increase my density of opening plays. I could also see, like, boarding Vexing Bobbles to make it so that my limited number of removal spells are more likely to resolve. This opening hand seems perfectly fine. We've got multiple 2-drops. I have a removal spell for an opposing Psychic Frog. I have a life linker that is very reasonable, but this is another hand where if my opponent goes the combo route, I might just die to it before I get to do anything. We doing the Entomb thing again? No. Probably gonna be a troll. Nope, just fetch. Sure. So this is presumably basic swamp into Psychic Frog, and I just decide whether or not I want to play Shoulder's Edict around days. Waiting to play around days means that I am hyper punished by Force of Will. Not playing around days means that this thing has the potential to spiral the game out of control. Getting off curve here and not attempting to deploy my own relevant cards is a really big deal. All my lines just seem awful versus Psychic Frog. I'm going to try to get it now. I don't think I can give my opponent the time walk. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Hot damn, got lucky. Give my opponent an Underground Sea and slam the Cavalry. It has resolved. So no days, no Force of Will. That probably means that my opponent has a creature-heavy or removal-heavy hand as of right now. Or alternatively, that they have like Entomb plus Reanimate sort of stuff that they are going to just do. Or a fistful of cantrips. Wasteland is really annoying here, because I would love to play Cavalry into Cavalry, because these give separate triggers. I think I'm going to get Fatal Push now. Sure. And I am a land light deck, so this is probably happening. I think I am into Resolve Bowmasters at sorcery speed, and not give my opponent the chance to pass the turn and then be able to brainstorm in response to my Orcish Bowmasters. But like, if we're operating under the theory that they might not have counter magic in hand, more cards that look like this are somewhat likely, or alternatively more cards that look like this. Like, sometimes I'm just going to get Fatal Pushed here. Other times I'm going to get a lot of value. Yes. This is totally fine as long as I get more land. Hey! So we'll throw a new one of these down. Now they've got a counterspell. Alright, there's a Brainstorm that I potentially kept in hand due to Bowmasters. I would love to draw a Dark Depths and just kind of do the thing. Fuck. Yeah. So now my opponent is going to get 2 Exsanguinator Cavalry triggers at the same time. I don't have that much removal in my deck list. This block is not good. The good news is that the blood tokens here are not particularly great in the presence of Orcish Bowmasters. Sometimes you get lucky. Mutated Cultist. Remove all of the counters from Dark Depths. Produce a 20/20. Now, a Shoulder's Edict is not currently an out because I do have multiple tokens here. My opponent can only gain 6 life. They are not going to above 20. Do you just have the fucking Petty Theft? God damn it. Sure. I have Death Touch on this, right? I do have Death Touch on this. So let's double block here. Let's take out the small one first. I can take out the other one next turn. I think it really sucks that the Death Touch is not visible on Magic Online. It just physically goes below the visible card stuff. A Dauthi Voidwalker, sure. Well, I mean, yeah. So, yeah. I am just going to do this now because of Wasteland, I think. The primary problem here is that I'm not going to kill in one attack step anymore, and I am holding these back due to the menace here. Shadow attack is fine. What is about to happen here? Attempted block, which I stop. Seems to be the case. I'm not sure why my opponent didn't attack with that. So that resolves. My opponent has 2 cards. They need to be Force of Will blue card. Yeah, my opponent is still alive if they attack with this. They trade for one of my onboard bodies. Gain 6 life to have a safety net. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I feel like we got exceptionally lucky there to rip multiple Dark Depths off the top to fill out our hand. And my opponent also did not have a counterspell to protect the Psychic Frog that would have run away with the game. I think I'm okay with how I have boarded. So this is a hand that does not play a game of Magic a decent portion of the time because my Dark Ritual gets countered or my first spell gets countered or otherwise answered, and then I don't draw a swamp. Given how powerful Leyline of the Void hands are likely to be, I think I'm just going to mulligan this one. This is a much stronger hand. Now, in case you're not familiar with this overall play pattern, my opponent can still do something like Thoughtseize me or answer my creatures and reanimate my stuff. So we shouldn't do the victory dance just because a Leyline of the Void has entered play. We're still going to end up in this same horrible play pattern versus Psychic Frog where I decide whether or not I play around days and get time walked just terribly badly if I do. I think my follow-up plays are worse this time, so I think I am going to play around days by waiting a turn. So let's attempt to take out Psychic Frog. We are so fucking lucky. Holy shit. I don't want to exaggerate too much, but if that spell doesn't resolve, there's a decent chance that I just lose the game on the spot. Sure. So this counts my graveyard as well. Sure. Oh, that's a little weird. I think I don't want to play the Bowmasters at sorcery speed here. I think I want my opponent to attack into my shadow creature, and then I attempt to take this out. Yep. This is now 3 toughness. That's still in theory fine. Dark Ritual. Orcish Bowmasters around days. Okay. So this is not quite as bad as Psychic Frog in that these are milled cards. So these are going to graveyard, air quotes, going to graveyard, meaning that my opponent is not getting them back. I'm going to just get through this Wasteland. It gives my opponent 1 more combat damage this turn, but I am a Dark Depths deck. Oh, okay, they did not Wasteland me immediately. All right, so they do still have days in for post-sideboard games. That's a problem. That one actually gets card advantage. Ooh. I think this is the game over point when my opponent connects with Psychic Frog for the first time. My Dark Depths-based strategies are no longer good. My opponent now gets to start drawing cards. I don't have blockers that can deal with either one of these things. And this just lets my opponent work more towards getting a counterspell that can stop my Helm of Obedience. That is currently my primary way to win the game. Reanimate my Dauthi Voidwalker. All right, I can hold that in hand in the short term, I guess. But this is just 6 more damage. Another card with Psychic Frog. We bottomed out here. I am dead to my opponent realizing that they can kill me with Wasteland. Let's see if I get a draw step that I don't deserve. I get a draw step that I don't deserve. God damn. Oh wait, can they actually... It says they chose Barrogoyf with Barrogoyf's ability. Can they actually get these even though they're not going to graveyard? What is wording here? A card from among them. So does that wording let it follow the zones? Yeah, so the wording is not like from your graveyard. Okay, so my opponent just like missed every time. Okay, GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is, in my opinion, the best Magic the Gathering website for hosting your deck lists online. One of my favorite features is that you can create your own custom tags for when you're deck building. So let's say you're building a commander deck and you want to know, hey, how many copy effects do I have? You can just create a tag and sort everything. And there's fun little hotkeys so that you can do this more quickly. So really, please consider checking them out if you are looking to tinker with deck lists online. Okay, our opening hand is such that we are going to relatively quickly attempt a Helm of Obedience combo kill. A single Thoughtseize or counterspell kind of pulls this hand apart. Eldrazi? Eldrazi. So Thought-Knot Seer is our biggest worry here. I am not going to cast a spell this turn. I would like to Helm of Obedience and Leyline like combo in the same turn cycle here. I don't want to play this out and then just get it answered by... Ooh, Trinisphere punishes that. Anyway, I don't want to play it out and then get it answered by Wastecape Battlemage. So Trinisphere means that I get slowed down here and my Dark Ritual doesn't cast Helm immediately. I can still Bowmaster my opponent. Like this Grim Monolith is tapped. So this hopefully slows down my opponent a bit. This is more stacksy than is normal for some of the Eldrazi decks. My opponent is probably going big here. Going big means that just naturally activating Helm of Obedience sometimes will hit a very relevant creature. And my opponent going big means that the Wastecape Battlemage that I played around on my turn, turn 2, was not necessarily good to play around, but we didn't have that information then. So my opponent's going to Kozilek's Command now to kill my Orcish Bowmasters. What's the order here? Oh no, they are just making spawns. Sure. So the next turn is potentially scary for me. I guess I am holding this. A 1/3 Death Toucher in play doesn't do a lot. We're going to send in for 1. 18. A second Eye of Ugin. This means some big awful thing is coming. A Breaker of Creation. So my opponent's going to gain some life. That part I don't really care about. I just need to draw mana. And unfortunately, I am a land light deck, so that's unlikely to happen. I am going to cast this Thoughtseize here. When you cast this, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of their library. You can put any number of land cards onto the battlefield, or a draw 2. The next turn, my opponent has kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, so this is castable. Null Drifter is not currently castable. We'll be at 18, 8, 16, 24. So the thing that attacks immediately all the time is more relevant. You have any evasion? No, but you have Annihilator too, which is not great. I can get rid of Orc Army token, Leyline, then draw land, then get rid of land, and still win. Your Power Stone is fine. Get rid of 1 and 2. Take 8. Now I don't win. I can survive. Like, I could play a Death Toucher or something, try to trade with this in combat, but then I just don't have the mana. It's very funny that we lost to a Trinisphere. So when I thought we were playing against Eldrazi aggro, like, I was good against everything if I played around Wastecape Battlemage, because a Thought-Knot Seer type card does not beat me if I have 2 Helms in hand. And then we got punished by Trinisphere out of a larger Eldrazi deck. It happens. Let's go Fatal Push out, or Sheoldred's Edict in. I really just want to bring in my Helm. The Karn has some text versus fast artifact mana in my opponent's deck, though. I don't know that I am going to do that. Bowmasters isn't the strongest unless my opponent is also playing the One Ring. I think I am usually hoping to combo kill my opponent in some capacity, though. So I think I'm going to go down on those, keep the Karn in. This is a good beatdown hand. With Dauthi Voidwalker into Dauthi Voidwalker, threatening 6 damage per turn cycle. Is that good enough? Maybe. Not the combo kill that I want. I have a combo piece in hand already. I think I'm going to go ahead and play Urborg. Doing so has some downsides, but then if I draw a Vampire Hexmage, I can just do the combo thing. Is this going to name Wasteland? What is this going to name? Helm? Gonna name Helm. Sure. So now I probably don't want to show this immediately. Let's get some aggro cards in there. I don't get rid of Pithing Needle, do I? Yeah, this is a downside of playing an Urborg. That taps for mana, allowing that Grim Monolith to get into play. And seems like that's it for now. So I think I play second Dauthi Voidwalker, and then pre-combat Thoughtseize, and maybe I get some giant monster here That is better than Dauthi Voidwalker. Literal 0 giant monsters. Unfortunate. So the Kozilek's Command is the only value card here. I will be taking that. However, I am certainly not casting that with a Dauthi Voidwalker. So we are just crashing in, treating these as aggro cards. And my opponent can then dismember both of these creatures, and I'll have to start doing the One Ring mid-range stuff. Sure. New Pithing Needle. Naming Dauthi Voidwalker. Sure. So these are just attackers at this point. I imagine my opponent might. No. Just straight up taking the fucking hits. Sure. Let's play Swamp rather than Dark Depths. Do this. I don't think there's anything that I need to draw immediately. I'll draw at the end of my opponent's turn. Play around the Thought-Knot, Seer style hand disruption cards. I'll draw a card. Oops, all Dauthi Voidwalkers. Now, my Urborg gives my opponent black mana for these Dismembers, notably. Yeah, so there is a actual paid-for Dismember. So this One Ring costs me some life. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hopefully I just aggro my opponent down here. Things are looking good. All is Dust style sweepers do exist, though. But because I know there are active removal spells in my opponent's hand, if I want to end this game, I think I have to play out more stuff here. My opponent has Trinisphere Dismember left. That is fine. Am I losing the Cavalry? No, I'm losing a Voidwalker. I'll take my 1 damage. Leyline of the Void is not super strong here with a Pithing Needle on Helm. So let's make the blood token here. I think I am into just discarding that Leyline of the Void to take a new draw. I don't think I play this one. I have 2 evasive creatures on board. My opponent's last card is Trinisphere. If they top deck a removal spell, I think I'm okay. So they have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. So we're not to like Ulamog levels of mana that could take out 2 things at once. I think I don't have to play out that Cavalry. I think I can play around all his dust. There's things like Kozilek's Command that can just make a bunch of chump blockers, but the shadow gets through that, so that seems fine. Now, Kozilek's Command targeting Dauthi Voidwalker can make enough things to block the Cavalry. They are going with make 6 spawns and draw a card. They get rid of Dauthi Voidwalker and make 6 spawns. They have a couple of turns worth of soaking up the damage. Sometimes they just lose here for this decision. I mean, looking at 6 cards is a lot, though. But, like, it has to find something that answers Dauthi Voidwalker specifically, or my opponent is dead. Well, they topped 3 cards, so Devourer of Destiny. Taking out Dauthi Voidwalker. Sure. So against that, I wish I had played out Exsanguinator Cavalry. I'll take my 1. Wasteland's tapped. So yeah. 3. Do this. Remove counters from Dark Depths. Make my 20/20. I think at this point I'm putting the extra creature on board. Oh, right, it costs 2 less because of the Cultist. So, how good is your top card? Not good enough. No Null Rods or anything like that mean that I can't interact with my opponent's big artifact mana. I don't have Wasteland to interact with the land-based big mana. I'm not in love conceptually with how we line up against this deck. I also just can't remove Pithing Needles. First opening hand does not have functional mana. Second opening hand is very weak. This is 2 damage per turn cycle as a clock. I start immediately. I have Disruption. The vast majority of my draws improve this hand. I think rather than go to 5, I will keep this one. And I think I am into the Dark Ritual over Natural Land drop 3. I think I want to be able to draw something like an Exsanguinator Cavalry in my first 2 draw steps and just deploy it on turn 2 specifically. Ancient Tomb, Monolith, that's bad. Fuck me. Double Dark Ritual. Cool. I do not believe that we are going to play Magic this game. I just fully think that my opponent is going to out-accelerate what I am doing here unless they stumble over their own cards. But like they already have 4 mana towards big stuff. This is awful. Yavimaya Coast. Wastegate Battlemage might be in that deck. That is or this could be for just like Null Drifter and the green is irrelevant. I am going to Thoughtseize this turn cycle. I want to stop whatever is coming. I know at least a Devourer of Destiny is over there. I'll take that out. But Eye of Ugin is coming. Opponent can untap their Grim Monolith. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My opponent can Eye of Ugin tutor. Like, that's just online. Kicked Sowing Mycos Bond means that I lose 2 lands here. I lose 1 to Wasteland. I lose 1 to this trigger. Yeah, no, we're done. We don't beat that. GG's. Okay, I do not have enough mana with this opening hand. I do not have enough mana with this opening hand. This one works. On 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't think I get to keep Dark Ritual after going down 2 cards. I could keep Fatal Push to hedge against an opposing Psychic Frog deck. I am not going to do that. Thoughtseize can theoretically already take that. Underground Mortuary. Maybe some sort of Elvish Reclaimer, Nadu, Natural Order type nonsense. So we get to look pretty much immediately here. I'm going to take Animate Dead. So our opponent has Entomb stuff. Holy shit, that is... No. They can still Entomb. They can still... Oh, they just randomly hit a Grizzlebrand. Okay. So getting this Dauthi Voidwalker into play is now significantly less good, because a giant monster is already in there. So I think I am actually just holding up Orcish Bowmasters for this turn cycle. That way a Grizzlebrand is significantly worse if it happens. So end of turn Bowmaster. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. King you. 18. Sure. Land drop. On cheese. Yeah. Cool. Cast Dauthi Voidwalker. My opponent will probably Entomb twice in a row here. There's Atraxa. There's Archon of Cruelty. All the cool people hanging out. I will Thoughtseize my Grizzlebrand under my Dauthi Voidwalker, please. Note that my opponent's build here has a larger number of creatures than is normal. So, am I into casting a Grizzlebrand? Yeah, I think I am. Cast for free. Draw 7. Ooh, baby. I'm not gonna think. I'm just gonna click on some Dark Rituals. This is 5, 6, 7, potentially 8 mana. That's not enough for Leyline Helm activate, but it is enough to put this into play. Yeah, no, you can Entomb. That's fine. World Gorger Dragon. So my opponent does have the ability to potentially do an infinite combo. Now, Dark Depths, Vampire Hexmage. Remove all counters from my Dark Depths. Attack for 2. Your move. Sure. You have a 4th Underground Mortuary? No, that is just marginal deck thinning. Okay, cool. That was a really fucking good Thoughtseize, folks. So, I like swapping the Karn for the Helm. Winning now is certainly a thing that matters. I like swapping Fatal Push for Edict in this matchup. Damping Sphere is a thing. Not a particularly potent thing. Same's probably true of Vexing Bauble. My opponent's playing a bunch of Surveil lands, so they are probably not going as hard as possible. I am not sure what amount of artifact mana they are going to have. I'm not really in love with Exsanguinator Cavalry here. I think I'm going to get rid of my Exsanguinator Cavalries and play a couple of things that can just help me with some amount of combo aspects here. I'm not sure about Vexing Bauble. Yeah, I am into this one. We have Starting Graveyard Hate. I can put a Helm into play on turn 2. I have a Mindbreak Trap for some of the worst case Dark Ritual scenarios. I imagine I'm just losing my Helm here, although I could be wrong. Nope. Okay, there is Artifact mana. Okay, that is a very reasonable play for my turn 2. My opponent can navigate the game around this Mindbreak Trap pretty easily in all likelihood. Yep, that's fine. That's my opponent's reason for being green-black. Lol. So, yeah. So, Surveil land. Junking a Reanimate. That's fine. This is actively good. Yeah. So, do this. I think I'll just answer this now. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Gone. That is an Entomb that is just going to be deck thinning. I imagine getting another Entomb out of the deck. That was a Swamp chosen. That's fine. Same overall effect. Sure. Surveil Land's doing some work. Junking a Troll. Gonna take some damage here. Alright. Not so much with drawing functional mana here. I can't Dauthi plus Thoughtseize at the same time. I think I am just Thoughtseizing here. Like, let's just not let my opponent accumulate something that matters. Now, is that Dark Ritual worth another one of my cards? I am presumably just going to find a Helm and kill my opponent. GG's. We've got a win on the board now. Alrighty. I am on the play. I have turn 1, Dark Ritual. This hand does not have a real plan and no longevity. I'm not into it. This hand is also not strong. This hand has no anything. I have half of combo pieces in my deck with no manipulation. I could keep it and hope to get lucky. How many outs is this? So this is 4, 5, 6 for that combo. It's a Helm that I have. I guess it's really 8. So 8 and another 8, 16 outs in 53. That's only 50% to hit something good in 2 draw steps, which is what I think I need to be competitive. I'm going to go to 5. I'm going to go to 4. This is terrible. We are going to keep the One Ring and hope that the One Ring by itself wins this game. Otherwise, we are conceding very quickly. Swamp Pass. Please don't play Underground Sea or anything else that represents counterspells. Just like play basic planes or something. Well, we lose the days. On a mulligan this deep, though, we were already in really bad shape, so 4 mana. Wow. Unexpected. I'll draw now. Okay. I mean, there's timelines where I win now. End of turn Entomb. Wrong card, right deck call. And my opponent likes their card. We have a theoretical answer for an immediate Psychic Frog in hand. Attempt to draw cards. Would you like to respond with an Orcish Bowmasters? No. The next turn I have Cultist into Dark Depths. We are just going to play an Exsanguinator Cavalry here. This is good enough to get a response. This could be Hardcast Daze. Cling to Dust. So I've got a threat in play. I have a source of card advantage in play. I am not going to get excited yet because Entomb into Archon of Cruelty is still just insane. That's a rough Thoughtseize. Losing that Mutated Cultist means that my Dark Depths isn't popping off immediately in an uncounterable, uninteractable way. I can still just Thespian stage Dark Depths. Alright, cool. Could be Petty Theft. Would I play out... Now let's just attack. We'll take that +1/+1 counter. I'll draw my cards. Leyline of the Void. I think I just like having Orcish Bowmasters and Dark Depths both available as things that I can do. Casting Leyline of the Void doesn't make sense here. Okay, it is Grixis control. I sort of suspected that once we saw Cling to Dust. Psychic Rogue is fine. Cling to Dust targeting Thoughtseize. My opponent doesn't die to Merit Lage immediately. This can just get flying. So I think I'm just going to plan to out mid-range my opponent here. I can ping Psychic Frog. They draw a card. Ping Psychic Frog. I make them discard another card. After they discard that card, I can Fatal Push Psychic Frog. Alright, we out mid-ranged our Grixis opponent. I don't love the idea of Thoughtseize versus this opponent. And now that I at least suspect that I am less likely to see the graveyard-based reanimation stuff, I don't have to live in fear of that. Thoughtseizes can turn into Vexing Baubles to just shut off counterspells. I still have Psychic Frogs to think about. That probably means I am going up on removal, despite the fact that we are playing against a control deck list. I think my mana is fragile enough that I don't get to sideboard out something like Dark Ritual. Maybe I'm just playing like 2 Vexing Baubles. I don't think I want to remove threats, and I don't think I can justify removing mana, given how difficult it has been for me to play cards. And then I think, this is probably fine. And then I think for the game that I am on the play, I might get rid of Vexing Baubles for Plague Engineers. Am I getting Thoughtseized? I am getting Thoughtseized. So my most important cards are not takeable via Thoughtseize. Losing the Vexing Bauble is still a little annoying. Hopefully I draw some mid-range cards that I can do in the first couple of turns. Or alternatively, well, never didn't have it. or alternatively draw something that just answers a Psychic Frog, because that card is dumb. Is that the counterspell? Yes, that is the counterspell. So my opponent's basic land means that they can't do something like Brainstorm into fetch immediately this turn, but my opponent is just preemptively brainstorming in respect of cards like Orcish Bowmasters that could come down very, very quickly here. Yeah, Fatal Push, perfectly fine card. That just lets me answer a Psychic Frog that my opponent could play out. Another land drop. Playing that Swamp prior to Ponder is almost certainly wrong. It's not wrong if my opponent has specifically a 2 mana, that's fine, a 2 mana answer to an Orcish Bowmasters, such as a Sheoldred's Edict. Otherwise, not giving yourself the opportunity to like do something like take the best card fetch or something like that is rough. I am thinking about just cycling this Vexing Bauble here to increase the chances that I have something to do with my own turn. I think I am going to do that despite the fact that it turns on some counterspells in my opponent's deck. Well, that's almost good. We're in a Thespian stage pass. We have Fatal Push available for a Psychic Frog that my opponent plays out. Yes, that is fine. Note that I can Thespian stage and a Swamp if I want, but that doesn't allow me to get rid of a Psychic Frog that is played out immediately, which I think matters. So at end of turn, once I don't see a Psychic Frog, I think I am okay with just generating an extra basic Swamp. So now I am representing the combo. I don't necessarily think it is correct to just go for it here. I've given my opponent no targets for something like a Sheoldred's Edict, and they behaved in a weird way earlier that makes me think they might have Sheoldred's Edict. So I think I am just going to jam the One Ring here. Make them expend resources on that. Sure. Stopping Triggered abilities is something relevant. Sure. I have a Fatal Push to answer that. That's okay. Although I honestly don't even know if I will now, because the thing that my opponent held up before could have just been a Bowmasters for my Bowmasters. So if I don't draw a very good mid-range card this turn, I'm just going for my combo. That is a very good mid-range card. Let's keep playing the mid-range game. I can win eventually. I am comfortable with winning eventually. Okay, that sort of thing is good to know about. That's a reason to do this earlier rather than later. I'm just going to have to worry about those sorts of blockers. I think I am now okay, just for mana efficiency's sake, doing that. Okay, let's send in. It is another Bowmasters. You've got it. So there's a ping. My opponent has to block with a second creature here. I will take out one Bowmaster in case I draw something like the One Ring. You can keep your 2/2. So Dark Depths. In case my opponent is playing Wasteland, I'm going to go ahead and do this now. So we will copy Dark Depths like so. Keep the one with no ice counters. And the cool thing here is that I just have another Dark Depths, so I just get to do this again next turn. My opponent needs to answer a 20/20 2 turns in a row or they are dead. They have a redraw sitting here. It's not a mana efficient one though. All right, they are going for the redraw. Now they need land plus answer. They don't have it, and we put another win on the board. We had a rough start with this deck, but it's looking better now. Okay, I am going to keep this hand, recognizing that it has problems. But this is a hand that just makes a turn 2 20/20 while having turn 1 graveyard coverage for combo decks. And we're just going to hope this is good enough. We are probably playing against Show and Tell after seeing Preordain. Having a Helm of Obedience in my hand is batshit insane in that case. Because if my opponent just goes Ancient Tomb, Show and Tell, I will Helm them. And I have the mana available to activate. Ancient Tomb, Show and Tell, coward. Do it. Do it, Curtis. Bottom. Sure. New cantrip. So if our opponent is a mono blue omniscience based build, holding up mana is just very correct. If they are a red build that has sneak attack that can potentially sneak attack, activate, mess with my stuff, I maybe just want to jam. So the fear is if I Dark Depths Hexmage activate, the fear is that my opponent just Omniscience Emrakul extra turns. I don't think I am going for my own combo this turn. I think I am just holding up Orcish Bowmasters and Helm activate. Okay, so they have green, specifically on an indestructible artifact land. Wild. Do I have the deck call wrong? Is this not show and tell? The fuck is playing Tanglepool Bridge? Yeah? Please draw a land so I can shut off my brain and not have to think. Hey! That's nice. So, yeah? Send it. This is 16. So I can go 1 mana, 2 mana, stage, target depths, copy at the end of my opponent's turn. So I don't think I even need to cast something like Vampire Hexmage. Okay, we win. First change, Helm in, Karn out. I want to be able to put these in off a show and tell, assuming that my read on the situation is correct. From there, it feels like most of the rest of my cards are just like not great. I can Edict for an opposing show and tell. I can Vexing Bauble to set back counter spells. I can Mindbreak Trap for some of the craziest sequences. All of that stuff feels middling. I am probably not trying to kill my opponent with Exsanguinator Cavalry most of the time, so I could board in 6 cards somewhat reasonably. I think we will go anti-counterspell tech and a couple of edicts. I could Damping Sphere. It has some text versus show and tell Omniscience lines. I don't really know that I am excited about that and expecting that to work, though. So this hand does not have any black mana. I am going to mulligan that accordingly. This also does not have any black mana. Gonna mulligan that accordingly as well. We'll go to 5. This has 1 mana and a couple of Thought Seizes. So on 5, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would honestly rather end up with a Leyline Helm 1-lander than this. I will go to 4. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is exactly... No, not that one. This is exactly what I want. Yeah, this is the Leyline Helm hand that I was working for that can use my opponent's show and tell against them. So I am in for this. That second Helm draw is not really what I'm looking for. Seems like my opponent has a counterspell and is wondering whether or not Dark Ritual is the thing to counter. And they are going for it. All right, Cunning Wish. So we are playing, presumably, against show and tell. There's my confirmation. The indestructible artifact land is still a little weird. Womp. Fuck. It's not like I'm fully dead, but mulligan to 4 without the ability to put my first clock into play is a really big deal. This is also just like not likely to result in a combo kill despite having the multiple pieces here. There's the Fetch Declare and a Ponder. Basic Forest as well. We are not top decking well here. The funny thing is, like, the Dark Ritual resolving would have been enough to give us a chance. Or Eureka? Drawn from Dreams. Look at the top 7, put 2 into your hand. Not even card draw for the purpose of things like Orcish Bowmasters. Now, little thing here, my opponent has snow-covered islands, but not snow-covered forests. If that was also a snow-covered forest, Icefang Coatl as a mid-range thing would potentially be on my radar, but basic forest there tells me that I shouldn't have to be thinking about that. Yeah. A Ponder. There's another land, and it is time for death. Cunning Wish should mean that I am dead. I will put in a Helm of Obedience on the off chance that I am given another turn, which should not happen, but on the off chance that I am given another turn, I can draw Dark Ritual, Dauthi Voidwalker, Helm activate, but this Emrakul trigger is the end of me. And helming, I guess I will helm my opponent for 1 just to look at 1 more card in their deck before I concede. This is very funny. This is very, very funny. Note that Annihilator 6 means that my opponent most certainly wins this exchange, right? Like, but that is hilarious. I'm going to go ahead and concede here. My opponent having an Emrakul at that much life while I have no permanence is GG. So when we're on the play, the Damping Spheres are a little better. Mindbreak Trap is questionable. Already boarded out Exsanguinator Cavalry. I start dipping into my real cards if I go any further than this. I think I'm just going to call this good. So I have Dauthi Voidwalker on turn 2 into hold up mana for the rest of the game for Helm. That is, I guess, acceptable. Land, go. Opponent mulliganed once. And I imagine we'll just see a Ponder or Preordain on turn 1. And the hope is that my opponent doesn't do something like Ancient Tomb Show and Tell immediately. There's probably fewer Ancient Tombs in my opponent's mana base if they are playing things like Basic Forest and the Indestructible Artifact land. So we can hope. I absolutely do not mind another Dauthi Voidwalker in case this one gets countered. Like, the Dauthi Voidwalker effects are incredibly important because I am just really hoping to win the game with my opponent's Show and Tell. Like, that is an active plan. I would love to draw another land drop. That way I have the mana held up to activate immediately. Negative. We're jamming Dauthi Voidwalker again. 100%. I want to set up this situation where I can just put one of these in off a Show and Tell and win the game. Fuck. Donde está Vexing Bauble? So now I need to draw something like a Dark Ritual to put a Leyline of the Void in play to represent the same thing. 2 mana. Fuck. Oh, it's not a Show and Tell. I'm still alive. But Drawn from Dreams is very, very bad for me. Okay, I'll pass the turn. Intention of Orcish Bowmasters on my opponent's end step. This does not draw cards. I still think I'm going to Bowmaster in response before my opponent can put a counterspell into their hand. This informs them that Bowmaster is coming, but it's not like they want to take basic cantrips off Drawn Off Dreams anyway. They want to be finding their Show and Tells, Emrakul's, Living Wishes, that sort of stuff. Vexing Bauble. That's probably better than playing Bowmasters for additional damage immediately. Vexing Bauble has some text versus Show and Tell Omniscience, but very notably, it does not counter the Emrakul. Ooh, sure. Fuck, I just can't cast my spells. Send it. After no blocks, we will play another Bowboy. We are just sending damage at face and hoping it sticks. Concede? DB_ThrabenU wins the match? How are we feeling about that? I would feel good about that. Ooh. Oh, end step play. No? Sure. Send in for 4. Opponent goes to 5. I think I'm playing Vampire Hexmage around a Daze here or leaving up Urborg mana to activate a Helm of Obedience if my opponent just casts a Show and Tell. So yeah, keep this. Pass to that. Because I think this next turn cycle is the last turn of the game. Dress down. You've got it. So that shuts off my Orcish Bowmaster abilities, meaning my opponent's cantrip is not punished. So now my opponent can cantrip and try to find their way to a Show and Tell combo. They do not have to win immediately, right? If they put in something like an Emrakul, I only am attacking them for 4. That's not great. Well, we get there. We lost the first 2 and then pulled out in the second half of the league for a 3-2 finish. All right, overall thoughts on the deck list here. Dragon235, I think your deck is okay, but is it good? I think the bar for what is a good legacy deck right now is very high. Eldrazi is very strong. Assorted Psychic Frog decks, be that, a blue-black tempo, a Grixis deck, or the hybrid combo decks like Riskaminator are so strong. There's Nadu decks running around the format. Would I rather be playing this than any of those other decks? I think the answer is no. These expensive cards were often getting stuck in my hand. The initial shot of Dark Ritual was sometimes not enough to turn my hands into playable hands. I feel like this is an A plus B combo deck in a world where my opponents are playing singularly powerful cards. The Psychic Frog style cards that just win the game on their own are better than Mutated Cultist plus Dark Depths, Vampire Hexmage plus Dark Depths, Leyline plus Helm, Dauthi Voidwalker plus Helm. So, this is a decently constructed deck list that maybe needs to futz with some of the mana numbers and some of the flex slots a little bit still. I give this a thumbs up for what it is, but in terms of competitiveness, I think we are a little bit on the back foot. We don't have some advantages of other combo decks of the format. We don't have cantrips to find our stuff. We don't have tutors to find our stuff. We don't have surveil lands to find our stuff. So when things line up well, this deck can be powerful. What percentage of the time are things going to line up well? And I also feel a little bit awkward about the sideboard. It feels like my sideboard cards weren't successfully catching some of the stuff that we were playing against. So, like, when I look at the cards that are there, I think to myself, this is a decent spread of cards. But in reality, sometimes the damping spheres aren't going to, like, appropriately hate on the combo decks that you are playing against. I don't really think you need more graveyard hate with Voidwalker plus Leyline here. So, like, I think that aspect is fine. So, we'll give this a shows potential, and let's call it a day here. Folks, if you need some cards, remember, check out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com, promo code ThrabenU to save you a little bit, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!